Hey guys, it's Emily, and today it's time for another Twisted Tale video. So in this one, I'm going to be reading What Once Was Mine by Liz Braswell. So this is the newest release in the Twisted Tale series, and as you may be able to tell by the cover and the title, it is a Tangled retelling. I don't know anything about this one aside from what it says on the cover, which is, what if Rapunzel's mother drank a potion from the wrong flower? So I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited. Tangled is one of my favorite Disney movies, and so when they announced that they were releasing a Tangled retelling in this series, I was so excited. I couldn't wait, and now that I'm holding it in my hands, it is so beautiful. I mean, look at this cover. It is stunning, and I'm very excited. So without further ado, let's dive into our book. So I've made it to page 106 of What Once Was Mine, and so far I don't have much to report as far as the story goes, because it's pretty much a play-by-play of the movie, despite Rapunzel not having the magical hair that she has in the movie, meaning that the hair like heals people. Aside from that, like, it doesn't really change anything. Everything is pretty much the same as far as like the story goes, meaning that we've seen like scenes from the movie. There's even like some mentions of songs and stuff. Like, the songs are not sung, but you know, there's like references to them. So I think it's been nice and like interesting so far. Like, I really enjoy reading this because it reminds me a lot of the movie, and I love the movie. However, there is one thing that I wanted to discuss, and that's the fact that this is rooted in reality. So let me explain. At the beginning of the book, there is a scene that talks about Tangled the movie. There are characters from our world that are discussing this story, and basically the story that we're reading is told to one character, no, from one character to the other. That's where the reality parts of things comes in. Now, it's very different. Like, we haven't seen that in any of the Twisted Tales so far, at least the ones that I have read. So that's a change. That's something that I'm not sure how I feel about just yet. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate this. I think it's different. I think it's nice that the author was trying to do something. But at the same time, one of the reasons why I like the Twisted Tale series is because it doesn't really... It's not like a retelling that is rooted in reality. It really just retells the movie basically in a different way. And I like that about it. So the fact that this one is kind of anchored in our world, I'm not sure I like it. I don't hate it either. It's nice to read about. Like, honestly, I really love reading the movie. It's kind of weird to say, but that's how it feels. We haven't met like Flynn. We haven't met Maximus. We have met most of the characters like Rapunzel, Gothel, Pascal. Like, we've met those, but we haven't met like Flynn, who's like probably one of my favorite characters of the movie, obviously. So I'm excited to see how they come into play. He's been mentioned, but we haven't really interacted with him. So I'm excited to continue reading. I don't really know whether or not I'm actually going to enjoy this. Usually I have a pretty good idea, but with this one, it could either go really right and like I would end up loving this, or it could go really wrong and I like end up hating this. So far I'm like in the middle where I don't really know where I stand. I guess I'll update you guys, but so far it's been fun to read, but for some reason I'm like not excited to pick it up. It took a while for me to get to that 100-page mark. I was hoping I would finish this a lot quicker than I have so far, and I don't know why. It doesn't take me that long to read, but for some reason like the beginning was kind of hard for me to sludge through. Like, I'll be honest, like maybe the last 20, maybe 50 pages where Rapunzel is older, I've enjoyed those more. But like the beginning where she's like a baby and everything, I was like, oh my god, this is boring. And it wasn't even that bad because we needed that backstory in order to get to the present timeline. But for some reason I just couldn't really read it. Like, I wasn't interested, I wasn't paying attention, and as I was saying, I wasn't eager to pick it up. But I think the tide is changing, and I'm more excited to read it now. So I'm going to continue reading, and hopefully things will take a turn for the better. Hey, so I've read another 100 pages of What Once Was Mine. So I'm currently on page 200. And for some reason, this is taking me forever to read. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad. Whenever I'm reading this, I'm actually enjoying my time. It's pretty much a repeat of the movie, except there are a few changes, including a new character, which I am really liking. But other than that, for some reason, reason, like I said, it's taking me forever to read. I don't feel inclined to pick this one up, which is a shame because I thought I would like this more than I am right now. As far as like the characters go, I am enjoying the way that the author is telling the story. Rapunzel feels like the Rapunzel from the movie. I feel like I'm reading the movie version of Rapunzel, which I'm really liking. Even Mother Gothel is pretty close to like what we have seen in the movie. I feel like she's a little bit off, but it's not that bad. Like she's pretty much what we've grown accustomed to. But the one character that's kind of like not what I was hoping it would be is Flynn Rider. Unfortunately, there's something off about it, and I don't really know what it is. I just don't feel like he's as charming, and you know, he's harder to root for in the book than he is in the movie. So this is kind of unfortunate because he is one of my favorite characters ever, like in the Disney universe. So I'm a little bit upset over that, but obviously things could change because we barely just got introduced to him. So I feel like there is room for development there, but like so far, kind of disappointed by Flynn Rider. But other than that, it's a fun story. It, like I said, is pretty close to what we've seen in the movie, but there are a couple of changes which I appreciate, because as much as I do like whenever they like include scenes from the movie, it also is kind of like I'm just rereading, like rewatching the movie, but like reading the movie version. I don't even know what I'm saying. But yeah, I like the fact that there are some liberties that are taken and like that we are going somewhere else, because otherwise it would just feel like, why would I read this if I could just watch the movie, you know? One thing that is kind of bothering me is the scenes that are taking place in our world. I just don't feel like they have a purpose. They really take me out of the story. They don't add anything. I just don't see why they're there. I don't want to say that the message is not like a powerful one or anything. I feel like it's an important one. I just don't think this series was the best way, or this story was the best way of saying that, like that, to tell this message. I feel like the author tried to do something and it is not working with this book. But other than that, like the part about Rapunzel and everything, this one is fun to read about. But like I said, for some reason, I'm just not as enticed to pick it up. Like I just don't necessarily feel like reading this, and I don't know why. There's something off that I just cannot put my finger on, and it is bothering me. Hello, time for a reading update. So I feel like it's been forever since I have last updated you guys. That's because I haven't been reading that much. I feel like this book has kind of put me into a reading slump. I don't think it's necessarily like this book's fault, but it's not helping me get out of my reading slump, if that makes sense. I don't think I have completed a single book in September. Like we're halfway through the month at this point, and I may have read like 1 or 2 books, but that's it. And usually I read a lot more than that. But anyway, let's talk about this. So I'm currently on page 356 of What Once Was Mine, and the second half of the book has taken a turn. So we're in a new location. It's very much deviated from like the movie, which I like. I think this is what I needed from this book. Like I like the world building of the movie, but it was following the storyline to a T, and like that was kind of annoying, honestly. I like when the twisted tales, they go like in a completely different direction. Like yes, there might be like a few little like nudges to the movie storyline, but I like when they're different, because otherwise it's just like I would much rather watch the movie than read the book, if that makes sense. Anyway, in this one, it's been a lot of fun to read something else. I feel like this book needed that, and as I have about 100 pages left, I have a feeling that we're gonna get back to maybe more of our movie storyline. There have been a couple of nudges, like I said, to the movie, which I think is nice, but I like that the book has taken a different direction. I'm enjoying it a lot more now. Rapunzel is trying to figure out like the magic behind her hair, which I think is super interesting, and I wish we dove deeper into that. Like I don't know if the remainder of the book is going to talk about it, but I do really like the way that it works, so I hope that we'll see more of it. But one thing that is kind of bothering me, it's not that big of a deal, it's not like the main plot line or anything, but it's Rapunzel and Flynn's relationship. So I love Rapunzel and Flynn's relationship in the movie. Like they're amazing. I love them. But I feel like in the book, they went from like being strangers to like being more than that, like being not friends, but more than that. Like they're not in a relationship per se, but there are definitely feelings there. And to be honest, to me, it kind of came out of the blue. Like I feel like the only reason why they're together is because they are together in the movie. And I feel like the book hasn't made a good job at building up their relationship. Like in the movie, it's clear why they end up together, but in the book, it's just like, Okay, don't know why we went from like 0 to 100, but I guess we're there. I'm not a big fan of it. I do like Flynn more than I did at first, but still I feel like we're not completely getting his character right, which is fine. Like the author made the character our own, but it's so similar to like the book, no, it's so similar to the movie that I feel like it's missing something. Like if you're gonna make the characters the exact same, just make them right. Like I feel like the book version of Flynn is not exactly what we've seen in the movie. It is, but I guess I'm not loving reading about it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm enjoying this more. It's still not something that I'm completely in love with. I think, to be honest, I had very high expectations and it's simply not living up to that. I'm still liking it, but it's just not exactly what I wanted it to be. And I think if I had dove? If I had dived? Anyway, if I went into this with no expectations, or if I had gone into this with no expectations, I think I would have liked this more. But so far, like since I love the movie so much and I had expectations diving into it, it's just not living up to what I had built it up in my head to be, but it's still fun. It's not a bad book. It's just not exactly what I wanted to read like out of this. But anyway, I'm gonna continue reading this. Probably the next time that I'll update you is like when I'm done, because like I said, I have about 100 pages left, and so we're gonna try to like crunch down and finish this book because it's been too long. Like I've been reading this for like almost 2 weeks now, and like it's not even because it's a bad book, it's just my reading slump. But like I said, this one is just not helping, so we're gonna try to power through. I'm kind of in a mood to read, so we're gonna try to read this, and I guess I'll see you guys on the other side when I'm done reading this book.
Anywhere you go, you belong. Anywhere you say, anywhere.
Alright, so I have finished reading What Once Was Mine by Liz Braswell, and I liked the direction that the story went into in the second half of the book. However, I'll be honest, there are a couple of things that happened towards the end that I wasn't completely satisfied by. For example, there was this like big plot twist, or not even a plot twist, but like this big scene that happens in the last portion of the book that I just couldn't really picture in my head properly. And I don't know if it's because I was tired or if it's just because that scene didn't completely make sense, but it was the first time as I was reading this that I just couldn't picture anything as I was reading. I was just so confused, and I just like flew through the end. Honestly, I just wanted it to be over with at that point, so I didn't really like took the time to question what was happening, but I feel like we were missing some elements to make it happen. One thing though that I want to talk about is like the big hair magic thing. I do wish that that had been more explored, because as we go through the book, Rapunzel is just trying to figure out how her powers work, and I wish that we would have gotten like a real answer as to what, like how it actually happens. I feel like we were always like unsure because Rapunzel is unsure. I thought that was super interesting, and I wish we had gotten like more definite answers in that aspect or in that regard. But other than that, I did like the book. As I was saying, some things that happened towards the end I wasn't completely satisfied by. Like there are some elements about like the epilogue, or just like even before that, there's a couple of things like the wrapping up portion of the book that I wasn't completely happy with, and that's probably just my own personal preference, but it felt flat a little bit. Also, before I forget, the whole thing about the like reality portion of the book that I was complaining about throughout the entire story, it makes sense as to why the author would include this now, because of the author's note. Basically, the author has like a personal connection with what happens in reality, so that was why she included it. Still, I think, well, I can understand like why the author would do that. I just don't think this book was the right way to do it. Like the whole like reality scenes didn't bring anything else to the story. Honestly, they were more like there to probably please the author, but they didn't bring anything to the story. You could completely skip them if you're not happy with them. I just didn't like that whole thing, even though I understand like the author's reasoning and like why she felt compelled to do that. I honestly would have skipped them if it were me, and like if I had known that they weren't going to bring anything, I probably wouldn't have read them, because honestly they were kind of annoying in my opinion. As a whole, I liked the book despite all of the complaining that I've done. This wasn't a bad book by any means. It's just that it didn't fulfill my expectations. I had such high expectations for this, and I was let down. I think the movie's better, which is often the case with these books, but in this case, I don't know, I just really wanted to love this more than I did, and unfortunately it just didn't really meet my expectations. Nonetheless, I think it's a fun book. If you're a fan of Tangled, I think you might like this. Or if Tangled is not one of your favorite movies, but you liked it, I think you might like this more than if like you're a hardcore Tangled fan, because I think like hardcore fans will have higher expectations for this, whereas milder fans might enjoy this more. If you just want to read a new Twisted Tale book, I think this one is a fun one. It is quite long. I feel like we didn't get as much as we could have gotten out of the story. I think the author tried so much in this first half of the book to like stick to the story, but since we were already familiar with it, it could have been condensed in my opinion. I think we didn't need to go into such details with like Rapunzel's life because we already are familiar with it from the movie. So since this is like nearly 500 pages, I think it would have benefited from either being condensed like that first half of the book, or to like bring even more outside elements, because to be honest, the first half of the book is pretty much a play-by-play of the movie, and since I've already seen the movie and I'm reading this because I want something else, I just didn't see the relevance of this being so long. But other than that, I did enjoy my experience. The second half of the book went into a completely different direction and I really like that, and so I'm giving this a 3 out of 5 stars. Not a bad book, but it didn't meet my expectations, unfortunately. So that is it for this video. If you guys have read this new book in the series, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and also let me know which Twisted Tale you'd like me to tackle next. I'm trying to catch up with the rest of the Twisted Tale series throughout the year, so obviously if you guys have any recommendations or specific requests as to which one you'd like to see featured next, let me know in the comments down below. And I guess that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next one.